Hello and welcome to WashingtonExec's video series. I'm Amanda Ziadeh, senior writer with WashingtonExec, and today I'm joined by Chris Borneman, Chief Technology Officer of Software AG Government Solutions. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I understand your company has recently been awarded FedRAMP Moderate Authorization. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit more about this achievement and what it means for the federal government?
Sure. So for FedRAMP is a program that's run by GSA, and it's really focused on letting agencies adopt cloud services faster. And it does it in a way where it's established a common set of criteria and security controls and operational best practices for a cloud service provider to follow that meets those government guidelines. It's based off of NIST. And then they've paired it with using a approved third-party auditor that everyone can then go through and trust the results of the audit. So not just the initial audit, but also the ongoing audit, making sure that the service provider is continually meeting up with the standards and evolving with the evolving standards as they go. And this allows an agency that once they've gone through that first authorization, the next agency can then piggyback against all that work that was already done from that former authorization. And it allows them to do it a lot faster, which saves them time. And it also helps reduce overall costs. From a cloud service provider perspective, it's a lot easier to go through and cook once and then serve many. So following the same set of security standards that every agency can adhere to makes the whole process a lot easier. So a lot of our customers were looking for a FedRAMP version of our service so they can get that speed to value, so they can recognize by buying the software that they knew they needed inside their agency, they can get it authorized very quickly, they can get to production very quickly and start realizing the value. So we partnered with Microsoft to go and actually use the Azure Government Cloud here in Virginia as our baseline that we inherit from. And then we add in our application, specific knowledge and our application management and patching, provided a complete end-to-end environment or solution set for our customers. We decided to start first inside of our IT transformation area, in particular around Alphabet, which is our enterprise architecture and integrated IT portfolio analysis suite for federal agencies.
So why did you choose to start with EA and IT portfolio management, and how does that help the government?
Sure. So for us, Alphabet has been uniquely positioned and recognized, by Gartner as the only leading application that can do both the EA side, so understanding what your actual enterprise architecture is and what your technologies are and your spend, but also then to be able to do the analysis against it to be able to do proper planning. And by having a single pane of glass where we pull data from lots of different systems or input from different people, gives you full transparency. It lets you do much better analysis and really plan and measure your improvements over time. But one of the challenges that any organization has when they kind of embark on this, and you start doing that transparency and visibility to everything, is your data quality that tends to be fairly low. And that's, you kind of inherit from having your data off in different silos, or that it's just data you've never really captured in some systematic way to be able to do the type of analysis. So using our high quality data quality tools allows us to be able to go through and manage the data quality by doing a kind of a many hands do short work in our distributed authoring approach. So lots of different business stakeholders, your finance people, your IT people, all contributing into this. And what we have found is that our customers have seen their data quality take an 80% improvement in under a year, right? And so we're really big fans that you should not be making high fidelity decisions based off of low fidelity data. What we're really trying to do is bring over what commercial best practices have been, so like GE, ExxonMobil, Nike, Philips, etc. All these large organizations have used this solution set, and they've managed the large budgets just like federal government, IT budgets that are in the billions. And so we know they can go through and get a fast return on investment. Some of our customers have seen an ROI in 6 months or less. And what we've also found is that it holds pretty true that industry average IT budgets, 80% or more, is already spent at the beginning of the year. It's allocated towards your keeping the lights on. Right? So it doesn't leave a whole lot for investment. And in government, what we've been finding is 90%, sometimes 95% or more of that budget is really towards that keeping the lights on and not leaving enough over to invest. So it doesn't surprise us that there's been this trend over the last several years with a series of initiatives within government to start treating IT just like the business world does and treat it like a business and operate it as such. So there's several different examples of this. First one for me that comes to mind is the FITARA scorecard. And the scorecard really is focused on measuring how well do you understand or operate your IT business. Do you have a plan for how you're going to manage your portfolio? Are you managing cybersecurity? Are you managing your transformations and your data centers, et cetera? But really how well you're operating against it. The second one is TBM, or Technology Business Management. And that adds on an extra flavor. There's a framework that comes to that, but really, where most organizations see the value is leveraging against that IT spend categorization. And it's used not just within government, but actually, started out outside of government into the commercial space. And that lets you benchmark your agency year over year, but also agency to agency, as well as agency to industry. So you can see, are you spending kind of appropriate amount or underinvesting in other areas, and based off of industry best practices. And then the last one that is my personal favorite is around the Technology Modernization Act. And that's the one that did the Technology Modernization Fund, enabled that. And that whole approach then allows an agency to target cost savings. And they're motivated to be able to get those cost savings because now they can bank that. Whereas in the past, it's kind of a use or lose it kind of funding. Those savings can actually be banked and then saved over a couple of years, and then you can actually self-fund. And that's the same way that the businesses typically approach IT. And what's more is with the TMF, it also has a facility for you to go out and seek loans to do those investments. So if you have a really good EA and IT portfolio management approach, you can then identify where your investments should be going, where your opportunities to actually get that funding, and then actually manage the execution of the transformation plan.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of your partners were also interested in the FedRAMP version of Alphabet. What has been the driver there?
Sure. So we actually had several partners who approached us who really loved the tool, but they were very interested in being able to have a FedRAMP version of it that they could use on their engagements. And so what always ends up happening is that they called in to an opportunity with a agency, and the agency project is only going to have a particular fixed duration. And so because in the past it just takes so long to get tools installed and authorized to be able to be used, it can be a deterrent, and they have to drop back to traditional tools that are really more point in time. So going into Excel or PowerPoint, Word documentations, and things that don't become living documents, that don't survive post the engagement. And so their interest has been leveraging that FedRAMP version of the service. They can bring that in at the beginning of the engagement, be able to go through and actually use it as a tool for that analysis and transformation planning, and then start collaborating with the agency. And what that does is it helps them make better decisions off of where those investments and modernizations should come from, but it also makes it a more meaningful engagement. And that in turn can then lead to a more trusted advisor in a long-term role as they help plan and help agencies go through and do their transformation. And it has an extra benefit that by using a tool such as this is that they can then also visualize the investment or the value that they're providing back to the agency, which again helps them out from that trusted advisor and longer term engagement.
Well, congratulations again to Software AG. Thank you so much for sharing more about this announcement with us today.
Great. Thank you for having me on.